AI replacing the white collar class. Most of you think about killer robots, we all go back. John Connors. Go back to the Terminator. That's what most people think about. We've got
3 billion prime lives.
Good old Sarah Connors.
The survivors of the nuclear fire called the war Judgement Day. They lived only to face a new nightmare, the war against the machines.
That's what most people think when they think about the war against the machines. Big old metal skeleton. The humans fighting back. This is like an opening scene to the Terminator. Right, so that kind of gives you most people's idea of what people think about when it comes to robots taking over, robots being a threat. And, it's become a pretty big thing right now. People are afraid. I talk to a lot of people that are just afraid of their phones. It's like because the weird things they're dealing with these algorithms that are tracking, everything they're doing. They're keywords that these phones are hearing. I've had so many people talk about. I was talking about Reese's cups, and then a Reese's cup ad popped up, and so many people talk. One guy was talking about he was thinking about getting back into dating again. He had just got divorced, and then all these dating sites popped up. Now, of course, there's always stuff like that just shows up on everybody's feed, but just getting into specific things, I hadn't even typed in who made. Like one day we're going to talk about who made the first working automobile, and I didn't know it right offhand, so we're going to Google it, and I pull it up just in the suggestions. And we had just been talking about it. We hadn't even got in and typed anything on Google. And it said, who invented the automobile? And my son sees it. My oldest son, Braden, sees it. And we're like, whoa, crap. Just kind of, I know this stuff's going on because I deal a lot with this. And, we work a lot online now doing the live streams. Hopefully that'll take away some of the glitches on TikTok. But yeah, we do a lot of work online, so we know to a large degree what the internet, what information's getting out. Really, literally, whoever wants your information can get your information. Just here recently, some friends at my wife's workplace, like a whole number of them were just hacked. One person I think got hacked, and people were sending money to these hackers. They had people sending money and whatnot. And so, yeah, that's what that fear, that innate fear coming about with the progression of technology, learning machines, AI. And, I guess our first foray, huge foray into that, for my generation, even probably for Gen Xers, were the Terminator films, and that was just like these robots that are just shooting and killing everybody. But it may not be that simple, but it may be. Right now, I don't know if everybody's seen it, but Netflix is currently has released this Unknown Killer Robots, and I'm going to play you the trailer for it. I've watched it. Good movie. Gives you some good ideas of what's coming up on the battlefield. And we're going to talk about the things that are expressed in this show on Netflix.
AI is a dual-edged sword. With the flip of a switch, the technology becomes lethal.
There is no place that is ground zero for this conversation more than military applications.
Forces that are supported by AI will absolutely crush and destroy forces without.
Militaries are racing to develop.
So just to explain to our viewers that are on the live stream, basically it's just going through a reel of just different areas where AI is revolutionizing war.
Don't stand a chance. How would a robot know the difference between what's legal and what is right? The hairs on the back of my neck literally stood up on the computer. Made tens of thousands of ideas for new chemical weapons.
That was the thing that surprised me.
The decision to take
these AIs creating chemical weapons
to computer software. It's one of the most pressing issues of our time. And if not used wisely, poses a grave risk to every single person on the planet.
All right, Killer Robots. That's the trailer for the new Netflix film. We got some articles on it right now. I think this is from the New York Post. World powers. Wait a minute. No, actually, this is kind of just backing up what that show is talking about. But, the thing that really got me, I know all this machine learning's going on. I've worked with a lot of AI trying to get certain things happening with my websites and trying to streamline things, because I'm one guy, using ChatGPT, using different, art apps, and so I kind of have this idea, but then I never really thought about that one specific thing they bring up in the trailer. And they're just basically talking about how they used an AI, and I think it was some kind of competition that the UN put out talking about how AI could be misused. And so these guys were using AI to, I believe, find certain molecules, certain good, trying to find good chemicals and ways to neutralize chemicals. And so then they use the AI to process the molecules and identify, how, all these different, mixtures, or how the molecules could be mixed and become more toxic, basically, ramping up chemical warfare. And so while, you're watching this guy, he sets the AI going and he comes back the next morning, there's a little file, and there are, I think, it's this huge file full of different chemical processes and mixes. I mean, and it all could be used for chemical warfare. We're seeing this whole change, right before our eyes. AI has been around for a while. And, to kind of testify to that, when you go to type, in your Google search bar or any search bar on a lot of your search engines, you're going to have where it, kind of suggests things, or where it adds on, when you go on Amazon, it'll suggest things. That's all AI. When you're looking at your For You page on TikTok, that's all AI. When you get banned part of the time because of community guideline violations on TikTok, sometimes that's an AI. Sometimes that's just trolls. And sometimes your trolls are, bots, pre-programmed bots. And I don't know if there's much AI. They're not as much machine learning. Recently, listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, he had, I think it was the guy's name was Hennessy, but he was on there talking about, how, what we're going to see with AI moving forward. You're going to see this huge surge in like the mundane jobs being replaced in the white collar class. So if you are going for coding, one of the articles I looked at, everybody's sending their kids for developing coding. Like 40% of what you're seeing right now has been developed by AI. They told the AI what they wanted, and it's like got this instantaneous access to information, and it's able to just, bam, 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 and it's giving them what they need. I've used ChatGPT and have friends that have used it to generate certain code for websites and website building. And we've all seen the art now. Digital artists are a thing now. They're using AI art and they're learning how to talk to this. Give it certain prompts so they'll get a certain product. And some people are really good at it. So, um, those are the minor things we're seeing. But what we're seeing right now is the world powers that are trying to get killer robots on battlefields. And this is what the New York Post is saying. It's basically an AI arms race. It says a new kind of Cold War is here. Military forces around the globe are in a covert arms race to develop terrifying new AI weaponry. A new documentary exploring the future of artificial intelligence in battle reveals. World leaders in Russia and China, people in the U.S. military have said whoever gets the advantage in AI is going to have an overwhelming technical advantage in war. Jesse Sweet, director of the Unknown Killer Robots, premiering Monday on Netflix, told the Post. Now, it's already premiered, so this is an older article. This revolution is happening now, but I think our awareness is lagging behind, Sweet, an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and producer, warned. Hopefully, it doesn't think a mushroom cloud. It doesn't. It says think, but it doesn't take a mushroom cloud to make us realize, oh man, this is a pretty potent tool. I mean, just what we're able, the deep fakes. I watched a deep fake of Joe Biden, and he was just going off in this speech. Um, but it was an AI generated one. There was the AI generated images of Trump running from the police. There was the AI generated Joe Rogan podcast. And what this documentary on Netflix shows is they're using this same type of technology. You watch this Navy SEAL. He's a former Navy SEAL. He's went into tech. He's went into science, and they're developing so it's what seems simple, but it could save many lives. And it is I guess a building or facility clearing drone. Now, this drone can recognize humans. It can recognize movement. Probably can recognize, by the time they're done with it, it'll be like a sniffer drone. It'll be able to smell, detect certain chemicals that may pertain to firearms or bombs or, any number of things they're searching for. But, they were using it to clear these buildings in their simulations and scenarios. Now, the thing is, so many soldiers have been shot clearing buildings, especially in our Middle Eastern wars. You're going into a person's home, you're going into an enclosed space, and we have certain training for our military personnel to go through to be able to stay alive, because some have died. When you watch American Sniper, you see him go in and start giving them certain training, the Marines certain training to help them with, clearing this building. And they've become fairly proficient, but again, you're taking away that loss of life because you can replace the robot. You might have 10 robots, 10 drones that can go in and clear a building. Now, we've seen, the thought of this in things as simple as Minority Report, where the spiders were going through the house and scanning everybody, and he had just got his eyes replaced and he was underwater, and the little spider robot pulled up his blindfold and scanned his eyes, and just luckily, it didn't blind him. But he was successfully able to hide his identity. I mean, we're really heading towards a world like that. That kind of ability to surveil, to clear houses. But there are good implications. There are bad with these killer robots used for military. So one of the things that they brought up was the inventor of the Gatling gun. I think his son possibly had died in the war. I believe it was the Civil War. It may have been the Revolutionary War or the War of 1812, because they had Gatling guns during Civil War. But yeah, he didn't, he wanted to save lives. He didn't want a bunch of infantrymen having to go out and stand in rows and just get mowed down while they're, sitting there packing that rifle with black powder and whatnot. He wanted something that was repetitive. And so that was seen as he had a good, he had a well-meaning intention. I always say, what is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. But yeah, it ended up just, causing more death, because then that was the next step was to, more portable repeating firearms during the Civil War. The Civil War was a big catalyst for, invention and repeating firearms. And while they were trying to save lives, they were enabling people to take more lives. And so what they're suggesting here is this is not going to, in the long run, it won't save lives. It'll cause more lives to be taken. There will be probably different ways that people's life are being taken. Right now, I was listening to a podcast where these people, they have a friend that he's an American that has went over to train the Ukrainian citizenry that have basically joined in to fight alongside the military. And he was talking about how, because they brought in this huge influx of people that wouldn't normally be into war, they're seeing different types of things. So they're seeing people with good, knowledge of engineering and use of drones. And he was talking about one guy, he wasn't physically able to get out there and fight per se, but he joined the effort and he rigged up a drone that could fire 3 RPGs. So you're dealing with that coming into war. Well, that's automatically killing more people. Now, yeah, they're on the other side, but when's that going to get turned on us? And we've seen the attacks on the Kremlin with drones. We've seen attacks on nuclear facilities in both countries with drones. This war has been probably one of the most drone heavy wars we've ever seen. This is the breakout of the drones. World War III will be, just filled with advancements in drone technology. I believe AI technology. If we go into it, which is looking like we probably will, they're already deploying our troops over to Europe, and our young men are going to die in trenches in Ukraine because right now they're fighting these weird type of trench warfare, and they'll fly a drone over and drop something into the other trench, then they'll all come out and just be fighting each other. Then they'll end up sometimes in hand-to-hand. That's what this man was talking about in this podcast I was listening to. It's just a whole different type of war than what, America's ever been involved in. So when we get involved, which is looking like we will, we're going to have to learn some new things, and we're going to be fighting with a little bigger of a foe than what we fought before. But yeah, so this, again, they're talking about weapon grade robots and drones being utilized in combat. Isn't new, which the documentary talks about, but AI software which AI software is not new, but it's just, we're seeing so much advancement. And if you listen back to one of our podcasts, my friend Kev, he came in and, Kev's, he's worked in IT. He's got a lot of skills when it comes to, working with computers and just technology in general. Some of the stuff he's come up with, he's taking 4-wheelers because he's big outdoors, and he's taking quads and he's doing these advancements on them and stuff. So he's got a lot of skill. He was talking about the amount of AI that the average public in the world has privilege to right now is just a minuscule amount of what is really out there. And when you see Elon Musk putting out, this picture that looks real of real people, but they're fake. It's AI made it. When you're seeing podcasts of Joe Rogan being made and it sounds like him, but he didn't do this podcast. When you're seeing Joe Biden make a speech he never made, AI's got some capabilities. I seen this clip the other day. It was involving, we talked on one of our last podcasts about the death of Hollywood and how we're seeing they're fighting against AI to a degree because they see it encroaching on their jobs. And we're seeing how it's coming advanced. And there was this tweet, some political figure tweeted it, but it was a scene from like a movie. The people looked real. The movie looked great. The visual effects looked great. It was every pixel was AI generated. None of this had any, I think the script, and again, it was a short clip, but we're in the infancy, and what we see is just minuscule to what they have and what companies have access to and governments. And so, usually the military's got more advanced things than everybody else because they're working. The reason it's being developed for is war. And so when you put AI into the mix of these killer robots, we're going to see just a whole new, it's going to be like when we went from just plain repeaters and black powder, when we went from black powder to repeaters, and when we went from just like lever action, bolt action to fully automatic, and then when we went from just ground warfare to using, jet, when we went from planes to jets, cars to tanks, it's going to be when we started using body armor. This is going to be another big rung in the ladder of advancement. It may be the one that breaks the ladder, folks. I don't know. But yeah, when you couple AI, machine learning, the one thing this documentary shows is how they worked all this time with like the Boston Dynamics dog and how it would be walking and falling over. And then, they show we started using machine learning, and the machine itself began to learn from its mistakes instead of the people just programming it. The machine began to learn. Hey, how you doing, Kate? We got Kate 47 in the chat. Good to see you. Thanks for them likes. Share this out if you're just now coming in. Hit that follow button and share this out to your friends. Let's get some folks in here. Again, we're doing this late at night, so I'm not usually on at this time. So, most of my people are not in here. But, you see this incident right now that I'm going to have on the podcast screen where, they're using these drones testing, like where I guess they're dropping bombs on armed position. So that's what's happening, with the killer robots aspect of it. Chat GPT, that's the big thing, but it's not probably even the smartest one right now. But this article from The Atlantic, it tells us it's kind of the writings on the wall. Not only are we trying to replace soldiers, which is great, we're going to be replacing the white collar. See, ChatGPT is basically ChatGPT 4 is basically able to do the basic jobs that people, the mundane jobs, the mid-class jobs, the low-skill jobs that people go to school just so they have a good, steady job at a desk. Well, ChatGPT is going to dominate that market very quickly, and it's going to upturn they're predicting it will upturn the white collar market by 2030. One of the things here is it says in the next 5 years, it is likely that AI will begin to reduce employment for college educated workers as the technology continues to advance. It will be able to perform tasks that were previously thought to require a high level of education and skill. This could lead to a displacement of workers in certain industries as companies look to cut costs by automating processes. While it is difficult to predict the exact extent of this trend, it is clear that AI will have a significant impact on the job market for college educated workers. It will be important for individuals to stay up to date on the latest developments in AI and to consider how their skills and expertise can be leveraged in a world where machines are increasingly able to perform many tasks. So ChatGPT is already replacing jobs. I think David Cho, I may be wrong about his name, but I was listening to him on a podcast, and I've talked about this many times ad nauseum. And he was talking about how he fired his lawyer. ChatGPT gave him some of the same basic answers he was paying the lawyer for, and I think you're paying $20 a month for that version, the ChatGPT 4 version of the ChatGPT Plus. So it's already replacing jobs. Let's see. Well, it's not going to let me read the rest of that one. It goes on to talk about the technology is put simply amazing. It generated that first paragraph instantly working with this prompt. Write a 5-sentence paragraph in the style of the Atlantic about whether, okay, see if I can. It's not going to let me read the rest of it, but it shows that even the newspapers, even these blogs, like I myself have generated articles. I have a guy working with me right now that is helping me with the blog, and we're working and using Chat GPT to keep that blog a daily news blog. So yeah, you're going to see more and more jobs disappear, more and more opportunities are going to disappear in the college educated fields. Is that bad? Is that good? I see a lot of college people that are leaving their jobs and moving out in the country and starting to grow food. Maybe they've already seen what's coming. They're trying to get productive skills to feed their families. Chat GPT may be coming for our jobs, says the insider. Here are the 10 roles that AI is most likely to replace. So let's go down here. They're going to have us line up a list of jobs that's high risk. Tech jobs, coders, computer programmers, software engineers, and data analysts. This is going to be one of their top jobs that AI likely will replace. Yeah, that's the one thing Carl Clark is saying in our chat. Chat GPT can't replace skilled labor. And I'm not going to say it can't replace it. It's just not there yet. It's likely we're going to see the collegiate class suffer far quicker than our skilled labor class. So if you've got a kid that's just dying to go to college, I'm going to tell you it may not be beneficial. This may be the one time in history you're going to have to be very careful about what your kids are choosing to do. These little mid-range jobs that that just kind of give you a paycheck, they're not likely going to be there. Coding and computer programming are in-demand skills, but it's possible that ChatGPT and similar AI tools may fill in some of the gaps in the near future. Tech jobs such as software developers, web developers, computer programmers, coders, and data scientists are pretty amenable to AI technologies, displacing more of their work. That's because AI, like ChatGPT, is good at crunching numbers with relative accuracy. So you're not going to need people sitting there using computers and calculators. ChatGPT will likely be the one taking care of that, or one similar. Let's see here, media jobs, advertising, content creation, technical writing, journalism. We're seeing the writers' strike right now in Hollywood, and they're looking for certain rights with the influx of AI. They want more pay. They don't want AI to be able to overpass them. How you doing, Kay, man? Good to see you in here. But yeah, media jobs is happening right now. I mean, you're seeing media jobs be replaced by people like me sitting at a desk with these AIs because, like I said, I'm using that for generating articles. I'm using that for generating graphic designs. Again, using that for coding. And I know a number of creators that are doing that. They're using it to generate scripts for their social media content. They're using it to schedule their code. I mean, you don't need an assistant anymore because you just tell ChatGPT, hey, order this, do this. Everything you would tell an assistant, ChatGPT can do that for you if you integrate it into your systems in the right way. I'm being inundated every day on most social media because I've clicked those buttons, and I'm getting emails from all these different people, these different companies that promise to integrate AI into your network and into your platform and your brand and help you optimize your brand. And they all are selling good things. So yeah, media jobs are going to be replaced across the board. Legal industry jobs, paralegals, and legal assistants definitely. Generative AI may most likely affect legal workers in the U.S., a recent Goldman Sachs report found. I mean, because they're going to be able to do those, just like I said, those mundane coding jobs, medical coders and things like that. You're going to see that fall to the wayside. The next one, market research analysts. I mean, these guys are already using computers and AI, and AI is just going to eventually, the machine learning is going to replace them. It's going to be right there at your fingertips. Teachers, I mean, yeah, I could see that happening. My kids learn more from just watching YouTube videos and Googling stuff than they do at school. I mean, we're seeing an unprecedented age of, learning from what you watch versus learning from reading for information. So there will be opportunities for people to learn by watching things, and also the augmented reality. You're going to have those headsets. You're going to be able to send a guy out. You're going to be able to, probably use AI to monitor them. And you're going to be that one head plumber, one head, electrician, or a guy over a maintenance department. You're going to get alert, and you're going to be kind of tuning into what's going on with their reality augmentation. You're going to be able to see what they're doing. You're going to be like, hey, this is what you need to do. I think it'll take over supervision too eventually, because you're not going to need all those people everywhere. Every plant I've been in to work in, every mine I've been in recently has cameras. And the upper management, well, they're watching those cameras at different points in the night, to check up things, or they can always go back and see. So you're not going to need somebody there to run things. You're just going to need workers that'll go in and do the job. And Caveman says he does not need Hollywood because he's got books. Drones have took over many helicopter camera positions. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, a drone can get a lot of places a helicopter can't, get down in between buildings. Finance jobs, finance analysts, personal financial advisors. Yeah, like market research analysts, financial analysts, personal financial advisors, and other jobs in personal finance that require manipulating significant amounts of numerical data can be affected by AI. Muro, the researcher at the Brookings Institute, says AI can identify trends in the market, highlight what investments in a portfolio are doing better and worse, communicate all that, and then use various other forms of data by, say, a financial company to forecast a better investment mix. So again, we're seeing, it wasn't too long ago I was hearing that all the skilled labor jobs, all of the factory jobs they're going to be gone. You're not going to have anywhere to work. And that's when they start talking about universal basic income. Now, I'm not a communist, but if everything's being done by the robots, we have got to have some access to income. So, yeah, I mean, they're taking the jobs. The economy would collapse if we didn't have some form of income to buy these things. They wouldn't have no need for them. I do feel like we'll start seeing more home manufacturing with the advancements in 3D printing and the computer-driven milling machines. And I believe AI will play a big part in that. You'll be able to say, hey, I need this. And instead of ordering it, it'll just make it for you. So one of the next ones, graphic designers. Like I said, we're already seeing that. I had a graphic designer come on making fun of some pictures I throw it up on YouTube. Look, I'm just throwing a mass amount of content out there, in some cases just to get a message out. And sometimes, they're going to say, well, they'll click by if it don't look good enough. It's going to look fine, and if people want to watch it, they're going to watch it. If they don't, and you can come out and dog what I'm putting on there to try and get me to, hit up you for graphic design, to pay you for graphic design, but I'm not going to pay for it. I'm building something from nothing, basically. So what money I do make goes back into what I'm building, and I'm going to go with the cheapest option. It's kind of like Disney versus Hanna-Barbera. Who's put out more content? Hanna-Barbera just waylays Disney when it comes to content, and people have watched the same cartoons. I mean, that was their thing, low quality cartoons, but a crap load of them. And that's what they did. And, everybody still remembers Magilla Gorilla just like they do Mickey Mouse. But yeah, I think a liberal arts degree is going to be even more useless than it already is. I don't think people even know what a liberal arts degree is in the future. They'll sit there and say, people were going to school for that. Accountants, yeah, they're going to go to the wayside. People are already using these this software to do their books for them. Bookkeeping apps, customer service agents. Yeah, how many times have you got? Have you called and you got a robot? They're getting a little better, not completely the best. Good to see you, Space Cowboy. Welcome in. Yeah, Kate's telling you go back out and come in. I don't know. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi. I had issues. The reason I didn't do this earlier today was because I was having issues getting my Riverside platform, getting my camera to work with it. I don't know. So one of the things I was like I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a lot of time when I'm driving in the truck. One of these guys I listen to, Lex Friedman. Now it was Mark Andreessen. He was on Joe Rogan, and so I began to look him up, listen to more of what he was saying. So he was on Lex Friedman, he was on Joe Rogan, he's been on a number of these podcasts, and he's talking about one thing about him. He kind of leads you away from the killer robot fear. Kind of leads you away from that, and he helps you to better understand how there's certain controls in place. The AI, we need to advance in AI because right now they're trying to stop advancement in AI to some degree. But then what he's doing, he's talking to in these closed door meetings with politicians. And there's a lot of big show and pomp about we got to stop this, we got to do this, we got to do that. And a lot of what Elon's doing is he's seeing people try to privatize AI advancement. A lot of corporations, he's wanting it to be more open source. So that's what he's calling for. That's the danger in AI that he's seeing, more limiting of freedoms and freedoms of speech and knowledge. And just like they've done with the media that we've had access to all these years, they're wanting to try and do that with AI. So, he don't like the fact that, ChatGPT, he invested in that so that it will be open source. Thing he fears is the corporations controlling a bias controlling that AI, like you see in certain countries that use it to basically rule their people. And so he's invested in a new AI. I believe he's working on getting that, and he's wanting it to be open source. And when this Mark Andreessen, when he goes into talk to the politicians, after they put on their big show, this AI is dangerous, the whole big Terminator, show that they want to put on of how they're scared of killer robots. Well, then he goes in and talks to them. He's like, look, what happens if another country advances so far ahead of us with, we're on the cusp of World War III. What if we had only allowed Hitler to just develop, aircraft and jet technology and never pursued it ourselves? There would have been somebody else that rose up in that stead, and we would have had to contend with them. Maybe Russia would have got better flight technology because, they were literally the ones who won World War II anyways. And they had access to a lot of knowledge from the Germans once they, began to take the country along with theirs, the U.S. and the Allies were taken. So what if we had not what if one side had not begun to develop firearms technology, to the point it was in World War I? Again, one side's going to be stronger than the other. So if we halt the development and the advancement of AI in certain areas, we're going to fall behind, and there's going to be a country that figures out how to use that against us. There's going to be an adversary that learns how to take us out. So what we have to do is the way he talks is we've got to learn to advance in healthy ways. We've got to keep these things on a leash, and they're not like humans. They're a machine. And he explains that. He made that very clear. Go listen to that Joe Rogan podcast. But I'm going to play you this thing from Lex Friedman podcast. And the question he asks, we're used to Google, we're used to Bing, we're used to all these things, but, he brings up a good question here.
Cool. It seems like a dumb question to ask, but do you think we'll still have the web browser?
So I have an 8-year-old who's super into Minecraft and learning to code and doing all this stuff. So I of course I was very proud I could bring sort of fire down from the mountain to my kid, and I brought in ChatGPT and I hooked him up on his laptop, and I was like, this is the thing that's going to answer all your questions, and he's like, okay. And I'm like, but it's going to answer our questions. And he's like, well, of course, it's a computer. Of course it answers all your questions. Like, what else would a computer be good for? Dad. And
Never impressed, right?
not impressed in the least. 2 weeks pass, and he has some question, and I say, "Well, have you asked ChatGPT?" And he's like, "Dad, Bing is better." And why is Bing better is because it's built into the browser. Because he's like, "Look, I have Microsoft Edge browser, and like it's got Bing right here." And then he doesn't know this yet, but one of the things you can do with Bing and Edge is there's a setting where you can use it to basically talk to any web page, because it's sitting right there next to the browser. And by the way, it includes PDF documents. So you can in the way they've implemented an Edge with Bing is you can load a PDF and then you can ask it questions, which is the thing you can't do currently in just ChatGPT. So they're gonna push the meld. I think that's great. And they're gonna push the melding and see if there's a combination thing there. Google's rolling out this thing, the magic button, which is implemented they put in Google Docs, right? And so you go into Google Docs and you create a new document, and you instead of starting to type, you just say press the button and it starts to generate content for you, right? Like, is that the way that it'll work? Is it going to be a speech UI where you're just going to have an earpiece and talk to it all day long? Is it going to be these are all this is exactly the kind of thing that I don't. This is exactly the kind of thing I don't think is possible to forecast. I think what we need to do is run all those experiments. And so one outcome is we come out of this with a super browser that has AI built in that's just amazing. Yeah, there's a real possibility that there's a possibility here that the whole idea of a screen and Windows and all this stuff just goes away, because why do you need that if you just have a thing that's just telling you whatever you need to know?
They're also.
So, that really takes it to a whole nother level, kind of like when we went into having personal computers. Our grandkids are likely going to have, that's where the whole Neuralink thing goes in. That's what kind of gets me a little antsy, because I can throw my phone away. If I get to certain places, they're not going to be able to track me. I think about these things, but that thing's built into you. That's when it gets different. Now, one of the things that gets brought up, I think Space Cowboy, he brought it up to one of our mods and followers, Caveman. He says, add government plus AI, it's 10 times more terrifying. That's why I'm not a communist, because a lot of times the government contracts private companies to develop this. That's how this stuff gets developed. They utilize private companies. So there is a certain area of corporatocracy that is corrupt too. So, but I like the fact that two guys made the personal computer, in their garage. I don't believe those days are over. I don't think they'll ever be over as long as, we keep pushing back against government control of every area of life, being able to, and AI may make it easier for them, but AI may make it easier for us to usurp their power. Look at what hackers do to the government every day. And I'd say, the reason they're looking for privatized companies, because there's a lot of people that won't work just for the government for that type of pay they're willing to throw out there. Sure, somebody will sit at a desk and take that, which really we may see the bureaucracy there'll be less bureaucracy in Washington as this progresses, because these people just kind of won't think, hey, one day a computer is going to replace me at this job. So this bureaucracy begins to get smaller and smaller, and is easier to manage by elected officials, because you don't have thousands of people sitting there behind computers, before it gets to this guy. You have AI doing a lot of the work. So we could see that. Someone find John Connor, we're seeing in the comments. But yeah, so we may see that. And that's why I like the private sector. And two, I see, I don't think these corporations are going to be able to do away with their jobs, but I think we're going to see more of a doing away with corporations, because why do you need these huge rich corporations using these AIs to provide all this product when you can use AI to generate what you need, especially with the minimalist movements and the tiny house movements? People are completely doing away with the house and a picket fence in the front yard and backyard and a dog, and they're doing away with everything. So why would they, people are going back to basics like homesteading. Why wouldn't they? And people want to be away from government. Why wouldn't they go to having their own? Why wouldn't every apartment building, kind of like you look on Star Trek, you have these, that just gives us an idea of what could be. No matter what you believe about whether the Earth's flat around, space or whatnot. I'm old round earther, but I like the idea of Star Trek, and they have these replicators, and they don't even have food manufacturing to a degree. They just go to the replicator and get them a ice cream sundae. And then they have industrial size ones that can make spaceships. Well, there's industrial 3D printers. What if a community gets a hold of that? What if kind of like back in the day, you had a guy that was a good blacksmith. You had a guy that was a good carpenter. You had a guy that was good with fixing wagon wheels. What if there's a guy that's great at making 3D prints of certain things? So you go trade with him because you're really good at growing food. And in a way, kind of have that undercurrency. It's kind of like that now in some places still. I was watching the other day, there's a YouTube video, print Glocks for print as many Glock lowers as you want for 13 cents a piece. And they were basically, they figured out how to 3D print firearms using computers, using AI, using computer driven mills and 3D printers. And so, but think about this, caveman. How long before somebody figures out how to use an AI to make their own 0-point energy weapon with microwaves, old microwaves? I watch kids sit over here just not even having a computer, take some old microwaves and start blowing up computers. How long before? They outlawed meth, and the government still ain't stopped them from getting out there and doing complex chemical equations in garbage bags out in the woods. Trust me, I've been in it. So, just like Jeff Goldblum said, life always finds a way, even with AI. What if it's more like the government and they got these evil or these black robots that do their bidding, but yet then you got this little group of citizenry and they got their own robots, and they kind of just go and have at it and always find a way to kind of jury rig it. We see it right now with social media. You see huge media companies being toppled by just a guy sitting here like I am with a mic. Y'all are watching me. Y'all ain't watching CNN right now, and they're in the tank. I've only got 9 folks in here on TikTok right now because it's 1:30, almost 1:30 in the morning. But there's a lot of times I'll have a few thousand people come through on here, a few thousand people come through on Clapper, handful of people come through the live on Facebook and YouTube, and then I'll have another handful come through and watch the recaps on all these sites. So all in all, I'll have sometimes 4,000 to 5,000 people come through and just watch this show, and they're not watching the big media anymore. They're not reading newspapers anymore. They're on my blog list. People are always looking to get out of the mainstream. There's always that section of people that want to get out of the mainstream. I think they'll ever get rid of them. There's countries that's tried. But I'm going to pull this up. This is from, I think, the New York Post, no, Wall Street Journal. But they're talking about how AI is replacing white-collar workers.
The idea of robots taking human jobs might bring to mind a scene like this. But it's not hardware that has white-collar workers concerned. It's rapidly advancing software, since artificial intelligence is doing a lot more than finishing emails.
Perhaps the biggest nightmare is the looming new industrial revolution.
The erosion of the middle class, already one of America's most serious problems, could get much worse with AI if we ignore it.
Here's how AI is already taking over tasks at white-collar jobs, and why employees and companies are both excited and concerned for the future of work. Generative AI can auto-complete your sentences, write feature-length films, or organize your calendar. And tools using it, like ChatGPT, are taking on an increasing role in white-collar work. They can create first drafts of documents, presentations, images, video, and product designs. Currently, 25% of work tasks could be automated by AI in the US, according to Goldman Sachs research. Generative AI helped make this ad. And this one too. The company advertised here said creating the image for this AI-generated ad cost about 10 times less than traditional methods.
This works much in the same way as other kinds of AI, which are using statistical methods on large amounts of data processing that through computational power and then generating out a computer vision system that says this image looks a lot like these other cats that I've been trained on. Generative AI is functionally very similar.
It goes beyond creating images. Alphabet is now using AI to run anti-money laundering surveillance programs at banks like HSBC.
So they're replacing
cutting out human error.
And when the
cybersecurity
transactional data and
operators.
illicit behaviors change, as they do, so does the
Analysts.
AML AI engine.
For some tech companies, AI is contributing to job cuts. A May report.
So we're going to stop it right there. Now we're looking, Caveman is talking about, Caveman and Space Cowboy are talking in the comments about, Caveman works, I guess he's a, Caveman, I'm not sure if you're a contractor or you work specific, have worked specifically for the military, but you're talking about different pieces of technology they have that gives them advancement. Talking about, even what do they call hydrogen powered vehicles, water powered vehicles that he's worked on. So he's got a good idea of what the government has to play with. So he's talking about all this stuff that they have. Imagine what they have with AI. AI is actually the one thing that I believe is going to give the government that ability to have control. So if we don't, I'm not saying, anything about a revolution, but if we don't start learning this stuff, working with this stuff, they're going to be far ahead of us, and they're going to work on dumbing us down so we can't ever turn around. Think about the guys who first started fencing in cattle. They didn't keep around the ones that was busting the barbed wire. My brother just got one last year. Crazy old thing. Sent me in to find that thing. And, I had a calf with it. Didn't even know it. That thing was even crazier than it already had been. I ended up running it back into the pen. Then I sit up there and never turned my back on that cow. But yeah, you don't keep the ones that cause a lot of problems. So you think about that. That's why we got to start in the private sector learning to use these things. This is why I always advocate for home manufacturing. It was the thing that made us free in the times before. It made us free from the corporatocracy that our government's becoming, because the corporations own our government. They've done everything they can to make you dependent. All the way back when Rockefeller began to make herbal remedies that had been used for millennia into old wives' tales, and convinced you to start using byproducts of crude oil to treat the symptoms of your sickness. And next thing you know, they start passing regulations, and they control the food industry. They control the farming industry, basically. That's why we need to start looking at home manufacturing. That's why I think you need to invest in 3D milling. I think you need to talk to, you got a guy that's good with this and he's working for a tech industry. You can pay him to do a little side work for you to develop you something. Hey, anything we can do like that, I feel like is a benefit to us, because in the end, we're not as well armed as the U.S. military when it comes to firearms and weaponry. But I'm going to say this. Neither was the Taliban, neither were the people in Afghanistan or Iraq, but they gave them a dang good run for their money with small arms and what they did have. And that's the thing when it comes to technology. We may never have as good a technology as government, but by dang, it don't take a lot of times that much to put a wrench in the plans of a corrupt government, because that's what will happen. The more power they get, power corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts. And that's a big thing we look at here. I'm not here to take the government down. I'm not here to promote revolution. I'm here to promote government oversight. We started this government. The people started this government. They work for us, but it's become more and more increasing in my lifetime, where the government thinks that they can tell me more and more what to do with my life. Before long, they're already trying in some places to tell you what gender your kid is. There are teachers right now that are helping kids that ain't got a dang lick of sense get genitalia cut off and body parts amputated, and there's states that allow it. and the parents can't do anything. It won't be long before you'll start seeing it spread where they'll start taking children out of homes for things like that. And then they're going to have a lot of power when they get your kids, because then that's the next generation. Imagine a whole generation raised up like that. We're already seeing what a generation that's not been spanked, that's had complete and unmitigated access to pornography um, and technology and answers. I mean, kids have access to all kinds of that. We've already seen the chaos that has been bred from that just in these last few years. So imagine a generation raised by the government, completely raised by the government, taken from their parents, told how to live, what to do. I mean, they'll be like cattle. They'll be a bunch of docile cattle. Like a lot of these farmers I know went to breeding in their fields. I don't believe in any prophecy other than biblical prophecy. But no, didn't Nostradamus predict in the end that humans would be bred like cattle, would be bred like livestock, treated like livestock? We're kind of seeing that now. I mean, we're being treated like the product now. Ad revenues, the big revenue for all these tech companies. I mean, they're selling us. They're selling our views pages right now. I mean, if you look at any of these articles or YouTube videos, a lot of them are basically, go to default view. You got a lot of advertisements that come in. I mean, they've taken up your screen space with all kinds of different things that I may have not ever watched before if they hadn't suggested it. I'm the product now. They sell my view to these other companies. So yeah, we kind of got that going on. And a lot of what we've seen these last few years is the corporations are trying to shut people up because some of the cattle are not docile anymore. They're fixing to put us down. I don't know if that's going to happen. I ain't trying to cause incite riot or anything, but that was just kind of the view I wanted to look at. This wasn't a terribly long one today, about 57 minutes, not counting the pre-show. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Chaos Cast. We hope you share this with your friends and help us out. Leave us comments, leave us reviews in the podcast platform that you're listening to us on. Go to YouTube and share that recap out on your Facebooks and Instagrams, your Pinterest, wherever you can share that link. Share it out. Get people coming in. Help us grow. Help us to get more traction. And, just in general, get better prepared. I like to do a devotional at the end of these. And I am a man of faith. I'm a Christian. I follow Christ. And I want to read you this today from our Grace for the Moment. It's a Grace for the Moment devotional, July 22nd. Because it's already July 22nd. I'm making this on at 1:30 in the morning, July 22nd. We're coming from Galatians 4:7. And this translation says, "So now you are not a slave." Oh, what was just talking about? I didn't even know that was there. You are God's child. And God will give you the blessing he promised because you are his child. See, the government don't own you. Not unless you want them to. I'm Christ, and he got way more than the American government's got. They just don't know it. He's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and he owns the cattle on thousands of hills. They don't own that. They just think they do. They try to take that. Max goes on to say this: maybe your past isn't much to brag about. Maybe you've seen raw evil, and now you have to make a choice. Do you rise above the past and make a difference? Or do you remain controlled by the past and make excuses? Many choose the convalescent homes of the heart, healthy bodies, sharp minds, but retired dreams. Back and forth they rock in the chair of regret, repeating the terms of surrender. Lean closely. You will hear them. If only. If only I'd been born somewhere else. If only I'd been treated fairly. Maybe you've used those words. Maybe you have every right to use them. If such is the case, go to John's Gospel and read Jesus' words. Human life comes from human parents, but spiritual life comes from the Spirit, John 3 and 6. That comes from When God Whispers Your Name, a book by Max Lucado. I always like reading his devotions. I did not realize it was going to be talking about that slave, kind of mentality and being controlled. But hey, it ended up going that direction. Government don't got control of you. The AI can trial it once, but it can't manipulate you like you think. I mean, you are your individual person. And if you need some help, you need something bigger than any of these other things that seem to be coming against you. Well, Jesus is bigger than they ever thought about being. And that's who I put my faith in. There's a lot of people that try to convince me of other things, but I'm going to tell you that it's going to be real hard. You can come at me with science, you can come at me with theology, you can come at me with history, whatever you want, because none of that trumps my experience. None of that overrides what I've seen in my own personal life. In the end, there's a lot of scientific things that persuade me towards Christ. There's a lot of history that persuades me towards Christ. Okay. But it's the unseen hand of God working in my life. It's the Holy Spirit moving in my heart that has given me confidence and strength no matter what the situation. So many coincidences, the exact time, the exact moment, the exact thing, the exact person, the exact word I needed, the exact thing happened, exact situation coming into play from 10 different directions, everything fell together. It's like shaking Lego blocks together and pouring it out, and you got a spaceship already put together that you never put together. That's the kind of things I'm talking about. I've seen in my own personal life, whether you believe it or not, and I have seen God move powerfully. There's been so many of these instances. Then we get into math, and it's statistically impossible that one man would see that. But yet there's not just me. There's so many others that I could talk to right now, people that I'm friends with, people I might just meet on the street that can attest to other, what we would call miracles, what most would call coincidences. But me, the individual, that Space Cowboy in the comments is saying, people are seeing this same thing in their life repetitively. So many coincidences that it can't be a coincidence anymore. Third caveman's talking about a story. He said 30 feet out of a tree with only one cracked bone. Heck yeah. When my brother, we were racing home on the back road, shouldn't have been going that fast. All of a sudden, I notice he's not behind me. I go back. He's walking out of a cloud of dust, and we're talking about church dust. It's kind of red clay mud like we have down here. He's walking out of it. Tire rods broke on his Blazer. It's flipped upside down, facing the other direction, and the cab is completely crushed on the driver's side. Should have been dead. Buddy comes by, takes him home. He gets his other truck, comes back, and they pull it up out of there and end up turning it on. He finds his phone, which he thought he lost his phone, turns that thing on, still crank up. We're looking at the cab crushed up. Should have been dead. Somehow he didn't die. He just happened to fall the right way when it flipped upside down. And to beat it all, and this ain't no lie, 4 people was there to see it. My brother, my cousin Richard, and old Corky Kaufman. And if he ever sees this, I don't know if he remembers it, but I remember it plainly. That song will get a little mud on the tires. Started playing on the radio. And I looked over at Corky. I said, daggone. I said, that's a pretty good song to start playing right now. Corky said, oh, yeah, there's mud on the tires. He got some mud on the tires, didn't he? And they pulled that thing home. And he didn't have it anymore. And they say it wasn't going to work. But those are the type of miracles I'm talking about. The unexplained, the improbable, the incalculable, happen over and over again. And if you don't believe it, ask God to test God, ask him to prove himself to you, and I guarantee he will. I never asked him, he just did it. It's that whisper in the soul. Dear Heavenly Father, you see those that are listening right now, late night right now. They may be up because they're having problems. They may be up struggling with something. God, I pray right now you just give them peace in their hearts, God. I pray, God, you use this podcast not to generate fear, God, but to help people to realize that you are in control no matter what. No matter what man tries to do, they'll never come up with anything as complicated and awe-inspiring as you. You made it all. In my life, my problems are insignificant to your power. It's nothing in your hands. It's a thought away from being fixed, completed, added, or done away with, or used. So, Lord, help my friends, those that will listen to this, to stand in that peace that surpasses all understanding that only comes through you, our Lord Jesus Christ. And today, if you do not know Christ as Savior, and this kind of sounds intriguing to you, well, we're all sinners. Ever since Adam and Eve went and started eating off that tree, he told them that was the only rule he gave them. Well, they broke the rule. They sinned. That's what it was. They were not meant to have that knowledge of good and evil, and if they hadn't had it, we never knew what sin was. We just went on and done whatever, lived in the garden eating apples, talking to snakes and whatever, nothing ever bad happened. But they did, and that basically put us all in the same pit. We're all born into sin. We're all slaves to the same master that they put themselves under, because they're our forefathers. They're our parents. Long way away, great granddaddy and mama, they done us wrong. But Christ decided, hey, I'm gonna go down there and fix this. Where man fell, God didn't, and he came down, became man, lived as man, died on a cross as a sacrifice for man, as a man. But yet he rose from the grave because he wasn't just man; he was God, and he defeated hell in the grave. He wrested control of hell in the grave from the powers that had it control. He took the keys from, and he has become that bridge between us and the Father. That bridge that could only be that space that can only be bridged before by animal sacrifices was made possible through sacrifice, that one and last and only sacrifice that Christ had to make for the remission of our sins. So if you accept him as your Savior, you got to realize you got sin. And Lord, I need forgiveness of sin. I need you to forgive me for it. I can't stop being human. I can't stop screwing up. I can't stop these things, because that's where grace comes in, because we are human. We're always going to fail, and we're always going to need help, because we weren't made to deal with sin. We're made to worship God. We're made to live in his presence. But the good Lord made a way, made a sacrifice. And if you admit that you need that sacrifice, that you have sin in your life that will destroy you one day, whether on earth or not, whether it's eternal death and damnation of the soul, in hell, all you got to do is accept him. He'll make a way. He'll help you in your life. You won't just get that. You won't just get that promise of eternal life. You will have promise of a better life here on earth, and being able to serve him and help others here on earth. So if you need that kind of help, if you want that kind of help, which I earnestly believe everybody needs it, he's there for you. Ask him for forgiveness for your sins and begin to repent from your old ways and follow after Christ as you read in his word in the New Testament. And my friend, then you're a Christian. You're serving the Lord. It's all up to you what you will decide you want to do. But I don't worry about getting laid off because of AI. Because if somehow they progress far enough to replace mine truck drivers and in mines, if they progress far enough to do away with skilled labor and all factory work, I'll still have a way. He'll find a way for me. He'll find a way for my children, or he'll come back before all that happens. I don't know. But I put my trust and my faith in him. Now, we do have sponsors that help this show and our website and this brand to operate. ReadyWise is a big one. We hope you will go check out ReadyWise through the links in the description and use code chaos10 to save you 10%. We will be having the ReadyWise Pro meals going. They'll be, I think they've been taking pre-orders. Once the pre-orders are over, you'll be able to go in there and buy through our link, get a discount when it's live on the site. When they finally they're done with pre-order and launch and all that. You'll be able to save 10%, and we'll get 5%. We get 5%, and then we have Blackbeard Fire starters. Pack Fresh USA, if you're wanting to put up your own food in Mylar bags, Pack Fresh has got you covered. Both of those are code EDGE through the links we'll have in our description and bio. And Odin Wolf, it's a new knife company we're working with. Edge 10 is going to save you 10%. And we got these knives. We got a couple of these knives now. I've put my own money into buying these because I like these knives. I feel like they're a good starter knife for somebody that doesn't use a knife. They're full tang. Got a 440C stainless steel blade. Pretty good steel for what you're getting. Kydex sheath. Some of them have something similar to the polymer-based ones, similar to Mora's, but they're trying to compete with Mora. And Mora, as you know, their full tang knife costs about $70 at the lowest. Now they got one that's red, which I'd love to have, but it's over $100, I believe. But a lot of their products, they're not full tang, and they're about 20-something bucks, and these are around $20, and they are full tang. So, but yeah, we hope y'all come back and see us on the next Chaos Cast. Go check out our brands. Go check out our website. Any of the ads you click on our website do help us to gain revenue. Any of the things you go and buy through our Amazon store, the gear that we've used in our videos, that helps us. If you watch our videos and share our videos on TikTok, we're going to get ad revenue. If you join our subscription base on Clapper, that's more subscription revenue. You can join a subscription base on TikTok. That helps us run this. Y'all paid for my website this year to keep it rolling another year. You paid for my Canva so far. You've paid for a number of graphic art that I've done through these AIs. You've paid for a certain version of ChatGPT app that I was using. So you've helped me with that. You've helped me with research through certain books that I've been able to buy and listen to. So we thank y'all for your support, for your help, and hey, keep it up. We're going to build this thing. We're going to do something. We're alternative media to a degree. We're not alt-right media because I'm not conservative or Republican or Democrat. I'm just me, and I'm going with my beliefs, and I don't trust none of these politicians because all I've seen is corruption. There you go. Y'all have a good one. We will see y'all at the next Chaos Cast. Appreciate y'all for coming in. Disaster happens at the least expected times. So be ready with ReadyWise.